Welcome back to CTV News Weekend. I'm Jacqueline Mulcharek. Still with one of our top stories this hour, the situation in Egypt and the protests that continue in many parts of the Arab world. Mohamed Rashidy is the director of the Canadian Arab Federation. He's joining us from Toronto. Hi, Mohamed.
Hi, Jacqueline. How are you?
I'm good. You know, we're watching these protests in countries like Algeria, Yemen, and many say what may be taking place, what this could be the start of, is wide-scale change across the Arab world, perhaps even in countries like Iran. Do you see it that way?
I hope there will be change across the Arab world. Definitely Algeria is looking very agitated today, and other countries will begin to follow. Tunisia began this movement, and I think that it will not end with Egypt. Egypt historically is the leader of the Arab world. It's a cultural hub, and the fact that we had this happen in Egypt means basically the other dictatorships are shaking in their boots, particularly that Mubarak was by far the most powerful and well-entrenched dictator in the Arab world.
So you say many are watching this and quite afraid, and certainly many people would say that fear does extend to Iran. Many would also say that we've got to be very cautious, and this is a very tenuous time, because although we're seeing the toppling of a dictator, there is instability that will follow. There will be economic challenges that will follow. And in that process, in that time, it's a window for extremists to move in and try to hijack the process. How real is that threat?
That is a common, I think, misconception, to be honest, for people outside of Egypt. Looking at a situation like this through the lens of fear, which has been the way the West views Arab and Muslim events, is wrong. And the reason for that is because the facts on the ground indicate something very different from fear. It shows that the people, through very peaceful means, despite extreme provocation and violence from the government, have been able to bring about a transition, have been able to overthrow the dictator. And the people who have done that are not extremists in any way.
No, but you know, my question is, I guess, more specific to this, because we see in Iran, we see Ahmadinejad saying, you know, what happened in Egypt, this is clearly the result of the anti-Americanism that parts of the Arab world feel, and this is what caused the revolt. Even if it may not be precisely the case, it is being spun as that.
Right.
And many people say that, you know, especially if there are hard economic times ahead, that people will become disenchanted, and there will be that window for extremists to try and take over the process.
Right. Well, Jacqueline, I hope you don't believe everything Ahmadinejad says, and the reason is something like that. Ahmadinejad says a lot of things, and he's not alone. Every country has taken this event and spun it in their own way. Saudi Arabia, for example, which is a supreme example of a dictatorship or a monarchy controlled by a family, has said that the events in Egypt are caused by outside and foreign agents. I mean, that's completely ridiculous. Yeah. The people are Egyptian. They represent every segment of society, led by the youth, and there is no reason to fear that. If I could talk more about the Muslim Brotherhood, if that's one fear that could come into it. But you know, they're not a factor at this point. They haven't played a role in these events. Right. What you've had is the population and the army. Those are the two things that are taking place. Those are the two major players right now. Mubarak, of course, was the man who controlled everything. He's now out, and you have the army and the people. The army has no extremist influence whatsoever. Right. They don't want to be involved in politics.
You're saying is the people of Egypt are smarter than this. They will not allow the process to be hijacked. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm saying they didn't accept Mubarak, and he wasn't an extremist. He was just he suppressed them, and they're not going to accept something extreme. They're not going to accept something worse than Mubarak, I can assure you of that.
Do you think people are also going to look, and we're hearing some reports already, that those inside the old Mubarak regime, several ministers are being detained, they're being told you can't leave Egypt, that there may be investigations underway. Many people are saying Mubarak should be investigated for, you know, some of what took place on his watch to people as well, people imprisoned, you know, wrongfully kept in jails, some for a number of years. Should that happen? Is that even likely to take place?
See, you're proving my point about the facts on the ground should discourage anyone from being afraid, because what we see is something incredible for the Middle East, and that is accountability. The ministers who were extremely corrupt, the media, you're somebody who works in the media, the state television, the things that they were showing during these times with people on the streets are absolutely despicable. Okay, they denied everything that was happening, including that Indiana Jones attack with the camels and the horses. It was really, really unfortunate. And now this minister of the media, as well as others, are under house arrest, and their assets, as you correctly state, have been frozen. So I would hope that we can go as high as Mubarak, but given that we've never had accountability in Egypt, this is an unheard of miraculous step, and it shows that the army has really stood up and taken the proper action up to this point. I'm very impressed by the army dissolving parliament as well, which has been put in place through fraudulent elections, and now going after these officials. It's very impressive, and it shows we're going towards a democratic process, step by step, rather than some kind of extreme overthrow.
Yes, and many people that we know share the kind of hope and optimism that you have as well. So we'll continue to watch this. Mohamed Al-Rashidy, Director of the Canadian Arab Federation, talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.